Hey guys, it's Jordan here from SwitchWatch. Today's review is of Pinstripe, a Kickstarter game made by just one person. Now before we get into the review, hit that subscribe button to join us on our Switch reviewing journey. It's well worth it. Anyways, without further ado, Pinstripe. Pinstripe is a bit of a surreal nightmare. It feels like you're playing an old European fairy tale in a slightly more modern setting. The way the characters talk, the visuals, the audio, and the story make this a very eerie, often unsettling game. Is it worth that hard-earned cash of yours though? Let's find out. The story for Pinstripe isn't fully explained. Ted, a washed-up priest, is travelling on a train with his daughter Bo. Upon bumping into a creepy, well-dressed gentleman known as Mr. Pinstripe and inhaling a dodgy substance, your daughter is kidnapped to be adopted by the menacing Pinstripe. You venture through a nightmarish landscape, meeting various eccentric and tragic characters who will help you or hinder your way. You're left to your own devices to pull together the clues and interpret what the storyteller is trying to convey in this dreamlike world, but what is very much clear is that this is not the reality that we know. I'm not going to go into it too much as that would be spoiling the treat for you. I'll just say I enjoyed the story and I felt the powerful emotions of chasing after your daughter, trying to save her from harm. It's sad though. Once you piece together the story bit by bit, it can get pretty heartbreaking. Not many stories in video games can do that, but Pinstripe succeeds magnificently. I think the story is strong enough on its own to pull you in and try Pinstripe. The gameplay for me takes second place to the presentation and atmosphere, which is really the selling point of the game for sure. The gameplay is very simple and does nothing we haven't seen before. It's a brief action puzzle platformer that doesn't need a whole lot to be said about it. As you pass through the various screens, you'll be taking part in plenty of easy platforming challenges while solving some simple environmental puzzles. You'll soon pick up a slingshot which will become intrinsic to your quest. Not only to fend off balloon-shaped enemies, but also to uncover platforms and solve puzzles. With this, it sort of becomes like a twin-stick shooter as you walk with the left analog stick and aim with the right analog stick. There are a handful of small mini-games spattered around, such as a Spot the Difference game, a Flappy Bird-style unlocking system. It's nice to have something different to do aside from the standard gameplay, but it's nothing substantial. If I had to sum up the gameplay in one word, it would be rudimentary. Everything works as it should, and is enjoyable for the most part, but it's really nothing we haven't seen before, or better and more in depth. It may actually be the weakest part of the game for me, and that's not because it's bad or anything, but because it kind of pales to the surrounding elements of the game. Despite being partly a puzzle game, I only became slightly stuck twice. One time was the game's fault, where I had guessed the correct solution to an environmental puzzle, but the first time that I tried, it just didn't work for some reason, so I ran around for 10 minutes before trying again and succeeding. The second was where it wasn't made clear that in certain screens, if you shoot upwards, your bullets will eventually fall back to the ground. If you get to this section, you'll know what I mean. It was a minor annoyance and could have been signposted a little better. Aside from those two things, Pinstripe is pretty much a breeze. It's not difficult at all. After completing the game once, you gain access to Adventure Plus, which lets you access previously inaccessible rooms, allowing you to quickly accumulate more of the game's currency, allowing you to buy seemingly overpriced Tommy gun and other small items. It may be worth going through a couple of times just to see and pick up all these little secrets. The visuals are beautiful. A haunting surrealism occupies every screen in the game. As stated in the intro, it reminds me of a creepy European fairy tale. The characters and the environments each have their very distinct look that even after finishing up the game will probably linger long in the memory for me, and that's a very high compliment. Performance-wise, you're looking at a game which runs perfectly smoothly for 98% of the time. Later on I did notice stutters once in a while that felt like the game was loading or saving something. It's unfortunate but very infrequent, so I shouldn't be too harsh on it. It's not like the Wii U days where pretty much every indie game released on the system had huge stutters all of the time. One complaint that I will stand by is that the loading times are pretty long. When you load the game up for the first time, or if you die, or if you go to a different area of the game, the loading is pretty long, probably too long for what it should be. The audio is pretty good for Pinstripe, although I will admit I never noticed it too much outside of a few of the more quirky tracks that pop up once in a while. The main talking point of the audio is in the voice acting. Pretty much every one of the weird personalities you come across has a voice to their name, and I would say 80% of them are fantastic and professionally done. I do love a good British voice in a video game, and there are loads of accented oddities on show here. Some of them do fail to hit the mark and come across as more amateurish than others, but it's commendable effort. The performances they all give just exude the uncomfortableness of the environments in Pinstripe. They are feeble, often sickly sounding with an air of a dream state, and it really works well. The standout is Mr. Pinstripe himself. I was thoroughly impressed with the voice actor here, who really brings the cruel nature and schadenfreude of the character alive.
I cannot wait for the ceremony! Your little pale white boy face will stream with tears, Ted.
Pinstripe on the Nintendo Switch is priced at $14.99 in America, which I do think is a tad on the expensive side. There's a quality story and production here, but the gameplay and length just don't match up to the price tag in my opinion. It's not bad value for money, don't get me wrong, it just could have been a little more reasonable. Saying that, I did do just about the unthinkable. I actually went back and completed the game for a second time, attempting a speedrun. After knowing the game, those 2 to 3 hours can become half an hour, and I think those who love speedrunning may find more value in this one. Overall, Pinstripe is a lovely game that's gameplay is overshadowed by the storytelling and the visuals. A lot of effort has gone into the latter two, and it brings what would otherwise be a bland game into something a little special. It's not wholly recommended by me, as it's just too expensive, and the gameplay satisfaction only goes so far. The haunting story does make it worth a look though. I would give it a 7 out of 10. I would say look out for this one on a sale for sure. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this review and found it useful in some way. If you did, then leave a like and a comment telling us what you think. If you're new here, then maybe consider subscribing for the best Switch content on YouTube. And lastly, if you want to see even more Switch reviews that don't make it to video form, consider heading over to our website switchwatch.co.uk. I've been Jordan from SwitchWatch, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.